Good morning, y'all. This is what I woke up to. It still exploded. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jalisa if you're new here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all my home brewing process for making my own beer at home. So if you're someone who loves craft beer and you've been curious about making your own beer but you're not really sure about how to do it, keep watching this video and I'm going to be sharing with you all my simple process on how I make my beer. And as you just saw, I'll be sharing with you all how to work around some mistakes. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the most important step in brewing beer is sanitizing. I use Star San to sanitize all of my beer equipment. The good thing about Star San is that if there's any bubbles still in your equipment, it's safe to still cook, brew, and consume those bubbles. It's not poisonous. So it makes sanitizing the equipment a lot easier because you don't have to be super concerned with rinsing out everything thoroughly. Now, for me personally, when I brew beer, I like to sanitize my equipment the day before, just so that when it is time for me to actually be on the stove and brew beer, I can just get down to it and not have to take up too much time trying to sanitize before I get on the stove. I'm going to be brewing a New England Style IPA. For this beer, I have 5 primary ingredients that I'll be using: my malt extract, my hops, the yeast, my specialty grains, and the priming sugar that I'm going to be adding during the bottling phase of this brewing process. Since my extract has been refrigerating these past few days, I'm going to go ahead and let it sit in warm water for 15 minutes. So as I stated, y'all, I have been out of the brewing saddle for a minute, and I just realized the pot that I sanitized is not big enough, y'all. It's not. So I got to get my big boy out and sanitize that joint, and then we're gonna keep going. So I'm about to get my 5-gallon pot, because that's the only one that's probably big enough to take all this water. Now that I have my pot sanitized, I'm gonna go ahead and start getting my water warmed up to 150 degrees. I try to do my best to make sure I'm maintaining 150 degrees. While my water is getting warm, I'm gonna go ahead and put my specialty grains in my steeping bag. And once my pot gets hot, I'm gonna go ahead and start steeping my grains. To all my experienced seasoned brewers, please do not come for me and my big pot. That, the traditional stainless steel pots that most brewers use, they're expensive. Like, they are extremely expensive. And when I first started off getting into this hobby, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to throw out that money just yet. So I got this pot. I think it's traditionally used to make jams, but I was like, let me get this just to kind of inch and dip my toe in it. And I foresee I'm going to be upgrading my equipment in the near future. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can see those upgrades as well as see the outcomes and the beers that come from it. So now that my wort has been boiling for 30 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and start the process of pulling out my specialty grains. And I'm gonna make sure I wring the grain bag out a little bit just to get that excess liquid that's in my grains. And from there, I'm going to turn up the temperature, y'all, and get my boil where it needs to be so I can transition to adding my malt extract to my wort. Now that my wort is at a roiling boil, it's time to pull my pot off the eye and go ahead and start adding my malt extract. So I'm gonna slowly stir the extract in, making sure it's all mixed in together. Once my wort is back on that main eye, I'm gonna let it boil for about 30 minutes. And again, throughout this process, I'm going to make sure my pot is maintaining a temperature of 150 degrees. All right, so right now my wort is boiling and it's got about 22 minutes left to boil. And around at the 10-minute mark, I'm gonna start adding my hops. These are the hops that I'm gonna be using. They are pretty much a mixture between Amarillo hops and Mosaic hops. Fun fact, this is the first time that I am brewing and doing a dry hop, so I'm super excited about that. I don't know about anyone else. I love the smell of hops. I think they smell so good. Sometimes I think about doing like little, I don't know, baskets, I don't know, doing little smell goods around my house of just hops, because I just think hops smell so good. I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to watch my work travel video where I went and took a trip to Mechanicsburg. If not, I will link that below. But on that trip, I went to a brewery in Hershey, Pennsylvania called Trove. And I tell you, that is like one of the breweries that I have gone to. And like as soon as you hit the door, you just smell the goodness of hops. So if you are in the Hershey, Pennsylvania area, highly recommend going to Trove. Smells good, beer is good, food is good as well. But yes, nonetheless, I've gone on my rant, but in about 12 minutes, I'm going to start adding my hops to my beer. So here we go. As my hops are kind of doing their goodness, adding their hoppy juices to my wort, I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping my ice bath. So because my wort has been cooking and doing this thing at 150 degrees, I have to cool it down before I put it in the fermenter. And so in order to do that, I have to give it an ice bath. So what I'll do is put a bunch of ice in my sink. And once I take the wort off the eye, I'm gonna go ahead and put my pot in that ice bath. While I was giving my wort a ice bath, I did add another set of hops to my wort. This was a mixture of both Amarillo hops as well as Mosaic hops. Once my wort is cooled down to its desired temperature, I'm going to go ahead and start siphoning it into its carboy. Now, once I've siphoned all my hops into the carboy, I'm going to aggregate the carboy. And this is the only time I'm going to do aggregation to my beer. Now that I've solidified that my wort is at the desired temperature, I'm going to go ahead and pitch my yeast. Right before my beer is going to be set in its happy place to ferment, I'm going to go ahead and top everything off with a last set of Amarillo hops. All right, y'all, so first part of my beer is done. My beer is in its cool, safe place doing its thing. I'm going to let it stay there for 3 days, and then I'm going to add my last set of hops to this beer. I have been told and advised by other senior brewers just to let your beer ferment for 3 weeks. I had a bad experience with the previous batch where, based on the alcohol content, I did not let my beer ferment long enough. I let it ferment for 2 weeks and it should have fermented for longer. And when I bottled it and then opened it up to enjoy, it started exploding and bubbling up. So now I have just adopted the practice of just letting my beer ferment for 3 weeks. I think it's safe to say the yeast is starting to do its thing. And this is still brew day. Okay, y'all, so my beer, it semi-exploded. It's a lot going on. I went to check on the beer before I went to bed and the airlock came off and it had a mini explosion. So right now my beer is in the sink. It's a lot of yummy goodness going on. The yeast is doing what it needs to do, but I am trying to figure out a workaround on how to make sure that this explosion does not happen again overnight. So full transparency here, this is what I'm dealing with right now. So pray for me. Okay, y'all, so this is a quick workaround that I found on YouTube. Shout out to YouTube and all the brilliant brewers who have lived through these experiences and shared them. So I took my siphon hose and hooked it up to my airlock, and I have that going into this pot. You can hear it, it's bubbling. The alcohol is coming, y'all. The alcohol is coming. So this is the workaround. I'm hoping that this stays put. I did tape it, but this is all I got right now, y'all. But everything was sanitized when I did it, and we'll see. I ran out because instead of using distilled water, because I don't have any distilled water in my house right now, I use Star San to fill up my airlock and do all this. So I'm out, as you can see. I've been sanitizing like a mother throughout this process. So this is the workaround. We will see what happens in the morning. Send up your prayers, y'all, and keep watching. Good morning, y'all. This is what I woke up to. It still exploded. I should have put more tape or something on this stopper because this thing is not holding. But I will say that I'd like to think it's not as bad as what I thought it was gonna be. So this is what I'm working with this morning, y'all. Okay, you guys, so I was able to clean up the second explosion that I woke up to this morning. I ended up reaching out to my friend who brews beer just to make sure that my batch of beer was not ruined, and he pretty much affirmed and validated that, hey, this is normal, everything's gonna be all right, and that the beer is doing what it needs to do. So he also stated that he's, had a few blow-ups and explosions when he's brewed beer, and has actually allowed for some of his batches of beer to ferment without the airlock for like a week or so. So needless to say, we're all good. We're still on track to make great beer, and I fixed this setup this morning, and in the process of fixing my setup from this morning's explosion, it has not exploded again. So far, I think we are in the clear. I think last night's explosion was the last one. Also, this explosion and learning experience has taught me that you need good beer friends. You need some beer friends, okay? If you are a home brewer, and you're just starting off like me, you need some beer friends. Although this is not my first batch of beer that I'm brewing, I'm still very much a novice. So if you don't have beer friends, I'm here to be your beer friend, y'all. comment below and we can start a little community and help each other out during situations like this. So just FYI, I did go and buy some more sanitizer. I know the other night when I was trying to mitigate my situation, I was out of sanitizer, so I went and bought some sanitizer from the brew store today. I've already pre-sanitized my funnel and I'm gonna put back on the airlock once I add my dry hops. So those things have been sanitized. I'm gonna re-sanitize this. And I have my little spray bottle. So when you all see this, this is my sanitizer spray bottle. So no worries, y'all. Everything has been sanitized. I'm just trying to move and shake, and it makes things a little bit easier when I go ahead and pre-funk the sanitation rather than filming it. So the set of hops that I'm adding to my beer at this moment are my last hops, which are my Mosaic hops. And once they've been added, I'm going to go ahead and pop back on my airlock, and I'm going to continue to let my beer ferment for the remaining time. As always, I'm going to add some Star San to my airlock to make sure everything is sanitized. So this is a close-up view of the hops that I just added. You can barely see it with all the other hops that I added the other day, but this is also a close-up view of my carboy. So it's got its color, y'all. I'm super excited to eventually crack this bad boy open. I smelled those hops and I was like, ooh, this smells good. I'm gonna have to go to the store today and get an IPA just to hold me over until I can actually drink this. Here I've gone ahead and sanitized my beer bottles. I'm also, after I've sanitized my beer bottles, I'm gonna go ahead and prep my siphoning hose to prepare for siphoning beer. Bottling beer is as tedious and a little annoying as I remember it being. And it's even harder now because I'm making a 1 gallon batch compared to a 5 gallon batch. My 5 gallon bucket has a end like this. This isn't the one that goes to my 5 gallon one, but this little spigot here, that's how I'm used to bottling, where I can take my bottling rack and just hook it up to the end of the spigot and then just kind of bottle away. This 1 gallon, because it's a carboy, and this is another emphasis on why I cannot stand using carboys, I have to siphon it. And if you know anything about siphoning, one end has to be higher, the other end has to be lower. And now I'm like low to the flow and trying to make sure I'm not getting any germs or icky stuff in my beer. I will say, because I'm just gonna, once I get the beer to flowing, I'm about to be in it. So I'm not gonna really have much time to stop and like show what sugar priming and stuff like that I'm using. But instead of using sugar priming and cooking it and all that type of stuff, I decided to get something easier. I'm actually using tablets. So these tablets, I just put like a few in the bottle and then I'm good to go. So for each bottle of beer I'm putting beer in, I'm going to put 3 tablets in it. So again, I'm just about to keep going, keep trying to siphon this, figure this thing out, and then we're gonna continue fermenting and making beer. Y'all, please don't come for me. I was struggling to siphon beer, and by the time I figured out how to get the beer in the bottles, it required me to get all the way on the floor. But as promised, and as always, everything is sanitized. So surprisingly, I got 10 bottles of beer out of that 1 gallon beer. Emphasis on the quotation marks, because This was, again, I emphasize this was the first time I actually siphoned the beer in the bottles. Most of the time I'm used to doing the bottle rack. So if you're used to that, you kind of stick that tube that I showed you all down in the bottles. It automatically fills up. And once it gets to the full point of the bottle, it'll stop pumping beer out. And then of course you put the cap on. This one, I kind of had to eyeball the level of beer to stop it myself and say, okay, I think that's enough. And so if you all would have looked closely at the bottles, there were some bottles that were filled up to a good portion, and then there were some that were super low. So, you know, I'd say I got about 9.5 bottles. So now where I'm at in this process is I've got all my sugar caps in the beer. It's going through another round of fermentation. And this round has to go for another 2 weeks. And then after that, I'm going to finally crack open my beer and then try it. So we're tapping on about a month in this process of making this batch of beer. So let's go ahead and let it do its thing. And then we're going to taste some beer in 2 weeks. We've made it. It is finally tasting day. I'm about to officially taste my beer. It's been a month. A little over a month since I started this entire brewing process, so I'm super excited to get into this beer. So here's a close-up view of the beer, and its color definitely has that hazy color profile. I will say, it smells so good, y'all. It smells so good. The hops are coming out, the citrus flavors are coming out. So just off the smell and the look alone, I'm pretty happy with how things are going thus far. So cheers. That tastes good, y'all. That tastes good. Oh, that tastes so good, y'all. That tastes good. It is very light and refreshing. Definitely has that citrus palate in there. I'm getting all the hops that I was looking for and that I would expect in an IPA, so I'm super happy about it. The only thing that I would say that I'm not really necessarily feeling is I feel like most of the beers that I tend to drink are a little bit heavier, and this one's very light. It's very watery to a sense, and I wish it was a little bit more oomph, a little bit more body, a little heavier, a little bit heavier of a beer. But outside of that, I'm super happy on how this beer came out. Oh, that tastes good. Also, another thing that I am surprised about with this batch of beer is that the sugar tablets that I put in this beer while I was bottling, on the front of the package, it had like a carbonation, menu or carbonation level. So 3 tablets was very low, 4 was medium, and then 5 was like, beep, we in your face, like boom, it's carbonated. And I like my beers a little carbonated. I like them on the carbonated side. And I didn't realize until after the fact that I only put 3 tablets in, but drinking this beer, it is carbonated the way that I like my beer. So I'm super happy about that. Overall, I am extremely satisfied with this beer. It tastes so good. I'm gonna have another sip, y'all. I'm gonna have another sip. Yeah, that tastes good. I'm happy, y'all. This is good stuff. That tastes good. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and comment below on what you think, some tips that you as brewers currently use, or if you're a new brewer and you have questions or you need some encouragement, or if you want to be a brewer friend of mine, comment below. Of course, like this video because liking the video helps small channels like myself grow. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, y'all. This is just the first of many beers I'll be brewing. I've got another batch of beer fermenting right now, and I'll just give you a little hint of what is in that beer. So you're not gonna wanna miss that video. So until I drop my pumpkin spice beer, why don't you go ahead and check out the video below, and I'll see you all there.